Welcome along to Inside the Gold Cup, the technical analysis show during the period of the tournament. What we like to do is take all the games apart, analyse them, put them all back together, just for you. With me, two generations of US internationals, Mr. Shep Messing, Mr. John Harkes, and I'd like to rename you, Shep. I've renamed you Shep Messiah. Where did you come out with that Canada call yesterday?
It's early in the tournament. I'm going to leave it alone.
We'll give him kudos. Kudos for that shout.
Yeah, true. I sat there and I thought, Costa Rica, and then all of a sudden, 2-1 to Canada. Of course, that's something we're going to look at in depth today. But looking at the Gold Cup, started in 1991, 16 odd years ago. Tell me, guys, what was the main sort of premise for its inception?
I think originally it was just to get more basically football on a routine basis for these smaller countries that haven't been able to play and be together. And, you know, they wanted to progress the game, I think, especially in Concacaf, and they wanted to expose it. And, you know, having said that, have they grown over the years? I think so, in a little bit. Do I still think that the U.S. and Mexico, and I think Shep will agree with me on this, the Messiah, are they still far above in terms of that distance between the rest of the teams in Concacaf? I still think so, but there has been progress.
Yeah, I totally agree with John. I think the premise was for those smaller members of Concacaf where it's a very elusive, challenging task to get into international competition, get to the World Cup. What's happened, though, Gold Cup, because of the quality of play, has become a tournament that means something. So that, I think, is good for the region.
And, of course, with this edition, a trip to the Confederations Cup for the champion in 2009 South Africa. That's a worthy prize.
No, absolutely. Everything to play for, you know, as they say, and these guys are going after it. And, you know, whether you talk about the new coaches that are on board or the players that are available, you know, through the selection, they definitely want to win this tournament. And they know it's a prestigious tournament, and that's going to carry on more success for them in the Confederations.
Shep, do you wish it's something that was around when you were playing? I'm not calling you old, all right?
No, you got a good laugh. You sing well. I played with and against some of the grandfathers of these players. I was always well aware of CONCACAF in general because that was the qualifying group, John, we all had to get through at the Olympic level, at the national team level, and certainly when Gold Cup started, I mean, anybody who's got soccer on their radar screen, you want to be watching it. So I've been watching it for a long time.
Now, John, you touched on that from when it started, you had your two superpowers, really, the USA and Mexico, and slowly some of the Central American teams, some of the Caribbean teams have come up. We saw Trinidad and Tobago make their first World Cup in 2006. Do you think there might be a point somewhere in the future, gentlemen, that it'll be a more level playing field between all the sides involved in CONCACAF?
Oh, man, that's a broad question.
No.
You know, it would be very tough, I think, and maybe, yeah, it can happen over a longer period of time. But in the near future, no, I don't think so. I think only because of not just the resources and things like that we have in America and Mexico and the players, but also just in terms of the education of players at a young level. I mean, I think that the kids, when you talk about the youth soccer in America today, whether you're talking about the senior level Major League Soccer and the national team itself, that's different. But when you're talking about the development and the youth players and how they're playing every single day, they're exposed to the game more and more. In this country, you know, and can't speak for Mexico because I didn't grow up there, but yeah, I know from the U.S. side point of view, I think it's always looked stronger, Shep, down the line. And I don't know what it was like when you were playing, whether you walk down the streets, you have kids kicking the ball around or not. But more and more I see kids every day picking the ball up in the U.S.
Yeah, incredible growth spurt, especially in the United States. But back to CONCACAF and Gold Cup, I think there'll always be a disparity between the teams at the top, teams at the bottom. Having said that, the overall quality of play in CONCACAF makes this Gold Cup tournament, even as a standalone, it's now a great tournament. John talked about this means something for the players, for the coaches, for the teams, for the nations, and there always can be a Cinderella story.
Well, in terms of growth for the region, how much has the Gold Cup contributed?
I think it has, because again, these teams that are playing club soccer all year round, they don't have that many forums to play at the international level, to get their national team together playing a meaningful tournament. So as Gold Cup gets more coverage, more visibility around the world, the tournament means more to the individual player because they're hoping to be discovered, and of course to the coach and the national team if they can pull off something and win the whole cup.
Absolutely, and you know, you're giving them a reason to play. You know,
Yeah.
why do we need to call in a team? Why do I need to select more players? Why do we need to pull in from this club? And can I get a release for this player? Because we're building towards something, and that's the Gold Cup, the Concacaf Champions Cup. They want to be there.
Well, when we come back, we take a look at the two matches from last night in Group A of the Gold Cup. Welcome back to Inside the Gold Cup, where Group A kicked off yesterday. The first match, Costa Rica versus Canada. And John, you and I discussed that Costa Rica should have been hot favourites. Were you surprised how they went into this game?
Well, I know. I see Shep smiling in the corner of my eye there. He's thinking, yes, Hoxie, got you, kid. I got you. But, you know, look, the Messiah, that's why he's named the Messiah. I thought Costa Rica, with Medford being in the position of a new head coach, you know, he really wants to impress. You know, and not only impressed, but what he can do, but his side as well, you know, this national side. Yeah, I was disappointed with Costa Rica. I thought they came out a bit flat. You know, we'll talk about Canada later, but look, Shep got the call on this one right.
Yeah, now we did expect them to dominate this game, particularly after their victory over Chile.
Well, we talk about being disappointed. I was especially disappointed with them in the attacking part of the field. I think they did a decent job at the back, but really when they crossed midfield, I saw no fluidity. I saw no overlapping runs. I saw Fonseca really left alone up top without any quality service or support.
And it seemed, Shep, as if, and we discussed this beforehand, as if that, like, really Canada came out there, you know, with their, you know, shoulders back and, you know, just their attitude, the way they swaggered out there, and the discipline. They had the patience, right?
Yeah, I think you know it. You know, the ebb and flow of the game, as the game wore on, and Canada saw the best, hey, this is the best you got, their confidence grew, and Canada started to take it to them. Back to Costa Rica, again, I thought pretty decent in the back, but absolutely no creativity in the midfield. Santana, no, really didn't dictate play. I thought he was the guy they had to play through. Didn't get him the ball enough.
Well, I mean, you know, he scores first, so you would think that, hey, this is it. And he's lifting the side, you know, Santana. Great goal as well. Maybe up for a goal of the tournament, you know, great bending ball there.
Yeah, the other thing, John, and then Dennis, want to hear what you think. The other thing is, I think the pivotal moment in the game, and you know this well, it's Costa Rica not playing well. They get the goal, they get the lead. Now what happens? That's a pivotal moment in the game. It all went bad for them then.
Right, right.
The first 15 minutes, Costa Rica dominated, then Canada managed to grind their way back into the game. How did they manage to do this? How did they manage to dispossess Costa Rica, who were really, I thought they were going to run the show after, well, so let's say first 10 minutes. I thought this is all Costa Rica.
Then. Now you're being more realistic,
bring it
because,
down.
you know, Shep and I said 5 to 7 minutes.
I saw the eyes, I saw the eyes.
We're thinking 5 to 7 minutes is more realistic.
And
I think,
I wouldn't call it domination, but
Right.
we brought you down to earth. Go ahead.
Well, look, no, Dennis, you know, good point. They looked a little bit comfortable on the ball, maybe. But again, what Shep was saying is very important. If you're going to build out of the back and you're going to get balls forward, there was nothing in the final third. There was no imagination. I think that's what we're talking about here. Costa Rica came out not only flat in terms of, like, you know, moving the ball quickly. It looked a bit slow, but Fonseca was on his own. He was left up there stranded. And, you know, Shep made a good point beforehand. We were discussing this. He needs more balls into his feet. He needs to be able to play off of somebody coming forward, and that didn't happen at all.
That's a great point. I don't think the spacing was good, especially when it came to Fonseca, because he's not a player that you really want to leave alone up top and ping balls to him. He's got such good technical skill. Somebody's got to be tucked in behind him, so he's got somebody to work with.
All right, let's have a look at the Costa Rican lineup, and of course it starts at the back with Porras, the man from Deportivo Saprissa, and he leads the team well. But Centeno, you mentioned that you're a bit disappointed with him.
I felt that, look, for sure he scored a great goal, but from my point of view, he's the guy that's got to go find the ball. He's the catalyst in the midfield. He's the link between when they win the ball, now they look up, they try and be creative and get forward. He's the guy you got to play through. So number one, I don't think he got the ball enough. And John, you know, hey, when you're out of the game, you got to go find the ball. He's a key player in terms of making that transition not blaming him, but it didn't happen enough for Costa Rica.
Well, for the Canadian side, Paul Stelteri, an absolute talisman on the right there for them. But we mentioned this young player from Deportivo La Coruña. Love him. Julian de Guzman, and what a fantastic effort from him.
Oh, absolutely. And this is a player where this is the kind of performance you want from a guy like this. Leadership, a guy that takes the game by the scruff of the neck and says, hey, I'll get you back on stage here. I'll get you back involved in the game. And he sticks the ball away. Two great goals as well, but a lot of other good supporting cast members as well that really put in a great effort from Canada.
Hey, tell me what team he plays for again?
Deportivo La Coruña. I love them. It's one of my favourite Spanish sides. I think they're fantastic.
I love when you talk like that. John, during the game...
That's another show.
Yeah. During the game, he was so electric that I almost couldn't tell, what position are you playing, dude? Because he's really a deep holding midfielder. Seemed to me he had freedom to get wherever he wanted to go. But I think it was not just an effort by de Guzman. It was, you could see the confidence grow in that Canadian team as the game wore on. Stelteri, game's not 10, 15 minutes old. He's getting up front. He's whipping balls in. He's taking free kicks. So, very good performance.
Absolutely. And we go back to even talking about, some of the other supporters like Hutchinson, on the wing, puts a great ball across. His work rate up and down the pitch. And then Di Rosario. You can't go without mentioning Di Rosario. Hits that one off the bar. And Shep's like, I would have had it covered, no problem, but dangerous players.
I'll tell you what, guys, you talk so much, we don't even need to look at the highlights. You pretty much described the whole game, but no, let's have a look at it in action. This is game one from the 2007 Gold Cup between Costa Rica and Canada.
Well, there's a smack right off the bat. Stelteri, we talked about him getting forward, takes that rip-it goal. That's one decent through ball, but Pat Onstad comes out, makes the save. This is Hutchinson that John talked about, and Friend gets on the end of it, chips that elegant little ball in, almost a scissor kick. Porras makes a good save.
But again, we talked about how dangerous this man could be. Di Rosario plays for the Houston Dynamo, Major League Soccer. Look at that, just off the bar. Great strike from him, and then here it comes. Against the run of play, Shep, we're going to have to say so. Santana. But look at the bend on that ball, beating the goalkeeper. Obviously screened as well. Plenty of numbers in the box. Maybe he didn't get a good look at it, Shep.
Well, coming back the other way, de Guzman had the answer. Whips it with the right foot. Little bit of a deflection. That's the killer goal because it evens things right away. And this is the winner. De Guzman again. Top of the box, left foot. Look at him drag this ball by one defender. Create a little bit of space for himself. How beautiful is that? And again, de Guzman, that's the two moments of individual brilliance that won the game for Canada. But I think Canada had a very good game.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing, like a player like that, you can't leave him alone as well. You've got to close him down.
Well, statistically speaking, 14 shots on goal for Canada as opposed to 10 for Costa Rica. Sorry, shots in total, I should say. Shots on goal, 7-4. A couple of fantastic saves for the Canadian keeper. But Porras, even though he let a couple in, he managed to put 4 away. And this, I thought, was quite an interesting stat here, gentlemen. 7 corners for the Canadians to Costa Rica's 3. So Costa Rica really not playing in that final third.
Yeah, one other thing, too, that can be interesting. It always depends on the way you read into these things. Sometimes when you look at clubs or national teams or whatever, and the players themselves, how many times are they caught offside? Now, Costa Rica's caught offside 3 times. You would think, whoa, they're playing advanced football, really positive moving forward, but that wasn't the case. It was really more of a situation in Canada, I think, really managed the game better throughout, and they waited for their moments, and they got it from 2 brilliant goals from de Guzman. He was fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know if I was a little bit surprised with Hernan Medford. You've got one of the most fantastic players in the world, and he's put him on the bench. And Volanos, he comes out in the second half, really didn't give him a lot of time to do much or support Centeno or do anything. Do you think tactically that was a wise move?
Well, I'm not a big proponent that coaches determine the outcomes of games. He knows his players in training every day much better than the pundits do. So he had a reason. he put his best lineup.
Thanks,
John knows you do your coaching. You do your coaching every day in practice. There's very little you could do during a game. I think overall, John made a great point about the offside. At the international level, you could look at it 2 ways. I like teams that are walking the tightrope, trying to time their runs, and they're caught offside. I don't think that was the case with Costa Rica. I think a little bit of frustration out of the midfield. They'd ping a ball forward, they're caught offside. I think they were out of sync, and I think much of it was because, as John said, Canadian team was very organized, grew in confidence, and they got up and down the field together, made it difficult.
possibly could Costa Rica have maybe underestimated Canada when they walked out onto the pitch?
Anything's possible. Yeah, Dennis. I mean, when you look at it, and we did mention it earlier on as well, we talked about, not like Canada was brilliant or anything, and I'm definitely not even like comparing them to a team like Germany. But one thing about Germany in the past is that even when the early days, they walked out with their chests up high, and that attitude scared people. I think Canada had a little bit of a swagger when they went out there, and I think, and Shep, we discussed this earlier as well, that carried on throughout the match in more of a consistent basis than what I think anything happened really with Costa Rica.
If you were Medford, what would you be working on?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Okay.
I'd be calling Shep. You get him out there and goal.
Get the two players down there. I'll tell you what, though, Dennis, that's a good question, because opening game in group play, opening game for the Gold Cup, that's a critical game. I was starting to think, as the game was scoreless in the second half, hey, these are the two favorites in the group. Maybe they just tuck it back a little bit, get out of here, play it safe, we each get a point. This is now devastating for Costa Rica to have lost their opening game. So tactically, he's got to change things up. I don't think they underestimated Canada. I think, again, the pivotal moment, they got the goal from Centeno. They're ahead, and at the most dangerous time, a minute later, De Guzman comes back.
Yeah.
Then it was all downhill.
That's where the weakness is.
You touched on Centeno. Shep, you were saying off here that you're a little bit disappointed with him, and also on here just before, but that you're a little bit disappointed and you wanted him to be more involved in the game.
Yeah, again, I can't look. The goal was a thing of brilliance. I mean, that's for sure. That's an individual moment. But here, he's waving to the crowd. This goal is beautiful. Cuts top of the box, beats two players, puts it in a perfect spot. Onstead really reacts late, but look at the bend and swerve on that ball. I'm not taking anything away. That's a moment of individual magic. But what I wanted from him, Centeno, is to come find the ball during the game. He's their link. He didn't have the ball at his feet enough.
It was funny because I was watching it, and we're watching it in the office here, and I was screaming, "Cut it back with the left! He's got no left big!" And I'm screaming, and then I was like, "Wah!" I just got so, okay, maybe not. I just got
way too many Red Bulls right now, but anyway.
No, but look, now for you guys, it's very easy. You've played professionally, you've played internationally. I'm assuming that you can do that at will, but for guys like me, you dream about being able to bend the ball with your right foot like that.
Continue dreaming.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll wake you up when it's over, son. Don't worry about it.
But were you surprised to see that he didn't take it down to the end and try and cut it in with his left?
No, not at all. I think Canada did a fairly decent job of shutting him down throughout the match, and I think that when you look at open passing lanes and things like that, the discipline really carried them through. And I don't think Canada, look on that shot there, they didn't close them down enough. Obviously, they got to get pressure to the ball. Pressure to the ball is not 3, 4, 5 yards away. It's really getting to the ball and getting stuck in. One thing that really stuck out from my mind though, all these players on the Costa Rican team, Saprissa, they know each other very well. A lot of players are playing in Major League Soccer right now. Seems like they won over.
Well, looking at the Canadian team, their performance, how they went, in terms of strength and weaknesses, would you say there's a few things to work on for Stephen Hart there?
Oh, I think Stephen Hartman's done a good job of instilling a lot of confidence into this side, and if anything, it carried out throughout the match. The one thing that I think, and Shep discussed earlier too, is that maybe, look, they could play a little bit quicker out of the back at times. They're going to have to step up their game. This is the first game. Maybe there's a little bit nerves out there as well. Other than that, I think that, no, they're doing fairly well.
Now, with them coming back into that game, that's a great, when I say coming back into that game, when De Guzman came back straight away, 56th minute we saw Centeno score, and then when De Guzman came back in and scored 57th, it's a sign of a strong team that can just come back and go, okay, because most guys, as you know, you drop your heads and then it takes about a quarter of an hour to get back into the game. 4 passes and they're back in it.
Well, again, I'm going to pass that to John, because John knows, as every coach all over at the club level and international level, they know the inordinate amount of goals that are scored right after you've just scored a goal, or the last minute or two of each half, or the opening. These are mental lapses, and those are critical moments. Maybe the team is still celebrating in their own mind. That's the worst time to give up a goal.
No, absolutely. And maybe it just comes down to not just, I hate to repeat that, but discipline again, but also just the maturity of this team. And maybe, look, after you score a goal, that's the first thing you do is, like, for the next 5 minutes, you're strong, you're disciplined, you're compact as a shape. You don't want to, take too many risks going forward. You want to play it safe, but not too safe to a point that where you're playing scared. And, I think this is something that really hurt Costa Rica. And then that was it, the turn of the tides. And like Shep said, then, De Guzman came out and he finished the performance off and scored again.
You talked about Fonseca being out in the wilderness for Costa Rica, but friend, how amazing was he for Canada? Gets the ball, brings it down, sets it up, out to De Rosario out on the left there, or Hutchinson. He just had a phenomenal work rate and a fantastic control.
Well, you make a good point for that one game, but you asked before, you were talking to John about what potential weaknesses Canada might have, and I think that's one. I think their creativity and their goal scoring comes out of the midfield. I don't know that they really have one go-to striker up top. Friend did a workman-like job. But I like the team in the back. We really didn't discuss it, I love, John mentioned it, the switch to Pot Anstead instead of Greg Sutton in goal. Anstead, I think, is the right goalkeeper to be in there. I like the team at the back with Stilteri. I like their players in the midfield. If I do have a question mark, where's their consistency up top in terms of scoring goals?
Well, you mentioned about goals coming from the midfield for Canada, and one midfielder that was on fire, De Guzman, you name it, left foot, right foot, the man from Deportivo La Coruña, absolutely on fire, and a great work rate. Aside from what he did in terms of goals, a great work rate on the ball.
Yeah, well, it makes you think really, like, where does he really play? Because he looked like he enjoyed his freedom to just roam about the pitch and create things and make things happen. And this is the type of player you always want on your side. Someone that's going to be dangerous going forward, someone that's going to pick the ball up and make something out of nothing. And he showed that he can do that.
He's also he's got his own little website as well. If you Google him, he's got his own website and goes,
he's
hi.
Been a busy boy, by the way. Very busy.
What team does he play for in Spain?
Deportivo La Coruña. I love it.
I'll tell you what I loved about him, and John alluded to it, is John knows because he was a two-way midfield player, not as much skill in the ball as that guy, but there's no better.
You never saw me really play.
No, he skinned me. But De Guzman, you really couldn't tell where he was playing. He had the freedom to get forward, and he took full advantage of it. He's got skill on the ball. He could run at a defender. He could skin him. But he's also a very savvy, smart player in terms of positionally where to be on the field. So he wasn't running helter-skelter. He was kind of orchestrating where his teammates were going.
And he's doing that against a side that really wasn't aggressive enough in closing space down. You know, this is a team that needed to be closer to the ball.
Speaking of aggression, though, I was quite surprised. He's 65 kilos, so I'm trying to think, what would that be in pounds? About 120 pounds, something like that? 5'7".
2.2 kilos to the pound, son.
Okay, well, I can't work all that out. My maths isn't that good, but let's say 120 pounds. And he was quite happy to... 130?
Yep. Quite
happy to get in there and mix it around with these guys. Never got pushed off the ball once.
Well, let me give you a lesson. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, size of the fight in the dog. I mean, you can't judge a guy by his physical limitations. We're still friends with you. So.
Oh, wow.
Now, John, in your experience, have you ever played guys like that are smaller than you, and you think, right, I can get in there and clip them and smash them and push them around, and it doesn't happen?
Absolutely. I mean, I'll go back to my English days. You know, I'm playing against a guy like Gordon Strachan, you know, at Leeds United, plays Scottish International, and this guy, you know, it comes down to how smart is this player, how quick a thought is, as well as speed of play, and these are types of players that can get around you at any time and moment.
And John made a great point talking again about De Guzman. How do you play him? I mean, if you really step up and pressure the ball, he's going to skin you and go by. He's that type, and John's played against players I have. They're just elusive. I mean, for the U.S., and DeMarcus Beasley like that, a little skinny fella, but he's just an elusive player to try and track down, stop, take the ball from.
Well, when we come back, we have a look at Guadeloupe and Haiti. Welcome back to Inside the Gold Cup, your technical analysis show during the period of the tournament. With me, Shep Messing, John Harkes, of course. Game 2, Guadeloupe and Haiti. What was your overall take on the match?
Well, I'll tell you, my first overall thought, guys, is that Haiti is coming out, passionate, tremendous home crowd in Miami. I thought they were flat. I really think they came out tight. I thought they were flat. I thought they never got in sync. Remember, if anybody could be an upstart in this tournament, you would think Haiti won the Caribbean Championship in January. I would have thought, John and Dennis, they'd come out flying in this game. That wasn't the case.
No, certainly not. They didn't carry the momentum, Dennis. And then here's the other thing as well. You look at a team, Guadeloupe, who's first time in the tournament. They came out like an excited team and tried to play with a little bit more imagination than Haiti. And Haiti, as Shep said, seemed to be a little bit flat in the day.
Sorry,
surprising to me, again, John, you've been there. Group play, we've talked about Haiti, on a roll, coming out. They know that the first game has been played, Costa Rica has lost. That's a huge bump for them. So I would think, and you've been in that position, Haiti comes out and says, this is a game we have to win. We got to get our 3 points. Costa Rica has lost. That's huge for Haiti if they think that maybe they can get some points and slip out of this group, and then they just lay an egg.
It's a massive advantage, and they didn't take advantage of it. You know, that's an incentive to say, okay, we know what they've done. What do we need to do now? Can we play safe and get away with this, maybe in a draw, whatever? They knew what they needed to do, and they didn't accomplish it at all.
Well, let's have a look at the lineups, starting with the Guadeloupe team. Surprised to see, we talked about Anglema, and then he never got to see the field.
Oh, he's 41 years old. If anything, maybe they put him in with 15 minutes to go, but I'm not surprised. I think he was added to the roster. He's a quality player, but John mentioned it before. We look at this lineup, Grandel in goal, Fiston. We highlighted him before, a very good player, but the mentality of the entire team from the opening whistle, hey, we've got everything to gain, we've got nothing to lose. They went right at Haiti.
Well, for the Haitian team, yes, we mentioned Boucicaut, and Boucicaut on fire in this particular match.
Boucicaut was one player from Haiti. I've been saying how everybody was flat. He was the only guy that really looked like he wanted the ball. He'd go find the ball, did some decent things when he had it. I don't think it's his fault, the game, but when you look at the rest of the team, they really never got into the game.
Now, do you think maybe the occasion might have got to Haiti?
I think so. I mean, you know, there's nothing else really to explain it. And maybe they came out with a little bit more apprehension, and they were tense and nervous. Maybe they just thought there was way too much pressure on them. You look at a guy like Peter Germain, who's in the midfield, and normally he's fluid and bouncing off of people and flying forward without any, you know, reservations. But last night he was playing the safe ball too many times, and you know, so maybe the atmosphere wasn't used in a positive sense. It actually became a negative for them, and they got too tense and too tight.
Yeah, I think John's absolutely right, because it can only be one of two things, right? Haiti is a better team on paper. They've got a huge crowd behind them. It's the opening game in their group. You could either be overconfident or you could be tight. Their body language to me looked like they were tight.
Well, how would the rain affect Haiti and Guadeloupe? It was pretty wet in Miami.
Well, I mean, obviously it's going to affect the game. The game changes, the dynamics of it. You got to play the feet a little bit more. You got to be, you know, be careful with the balls that you're playing through into space, because it's going to run away or skip out of bounds. But, you know, normally that's for long ball teams. And, you know, both these teams, it was a wide open game. I mean, it wasn't like as if there was, you know, very hard to penetrate through the midfield, and that there was a lot of, you know, loose markings, and, you know, you pick up whoever comes through, whatever. But maybe it was a communication thing. Maybe it was just because nobody wanted to take the responsibility and be a leader and step forward. But really little had to do with the weather.
Well, this is the action between Guadeloupe and Haiti.
Now Terry Vaughan, the referee, as action got underway. And we talked about Fiston for Guadeloupe, left foot, wow. Bangs it off the crossbar. He had two guys open at the far post, and instead elects to go to goal. Look at the left peg, Jet.
And this is all about taking advantage of the opportunities, Shep. And this is what we said. This is positive football. They're taking chances.
This is Boucicaut, gets down into the box. Verto takes him down. Terry Vaughan points to the PK spot. Cherry, he sticks it in, sends Grandel the other way. That's the way to take a penalty kick, John. A little bit of hesitation, sees the goalkeeper, slats it home.
Again, just with that confidence as well. It was a good call, and Terry Vaughan was right on the spot there. Here's the other end, though.
That's the play of the game for Guadeloupe. Look at this goal. It's actually, the cross is deflected a little bit. Fiston has to readjust his body in midair. There's a little bit of the deflection. That's a great goal, and if you're from Guadeloupe, you've got to be hugely excited. They climbed a mountain, they got the equalizer. That's a great result.
Well, for Guadeloupe, 13 shots in total to Haiti 7. 2 of those on target, 6 for Haiti. That's a pretty good effort, John. 6 on target.
Well, yeah, I was just saying to Shep, we were talking earlier, you know, Shep called the game as well. He's like, I don't recall 6 shots on goal. And maybe they weren't dangerous strikes on goal. Or maybe they didn't bring the best out of the goalkeeper. But, you know, at the same stage, you know, they seem to have gotten 6 shots. I just don't remember them all.
Now, you mentioned the offsides in the previous game. 4 offsides for Guadeloupe. Again, another sign of them trying to go forward?
Well, I think, you know, you can look at that offside statistic in 2 manners. Yeah. We saw it for Costa Rica. I didn't think it was effective. There were frustration offsides. terms of Guadeloupe, I think that reflects that they came out to go at Haiti. They wanted to attack the back line. They wanted to spread the field. They wanted to get wide. They showed a real commitment and energy and excitement, and I think they deserved the equalizing goal.
Okay, well, focusing specifically on the Haiti side. Now, I noticed between the 42nd and 48th minute of the second half for this game, they probably had about 5 or 6 opportunities to actually take the game, and I think that Guadeloupe probably deserved to win that game, having a look at it. But finishing in front of goal is so important at a tournament like this.
Well, you start with Haiti, John, and we watched the game, and I'm really disappointed. Here's a team that I think should be on the front foot. Again, you look at who they have to play in the group. They've got Costa Rica coming up. They've got Canada coming up. They open against Guadeloupe. I think you come out flying. You move as a unit. You play your backs up. Your midfield pings the ball around. We saw none of that. So I think they're in a real hole now. It's a real quandary what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that when they first came out, this is a game that they thought they would get the 3 points. And, you know, having now they've got to really dig out of this hole and say, how are we going to get a result against the other two in this group? And it's going to be very difficult, especially after last night's performance. I think that they've got to change the side around a little bit. They've got to shake some things up, and whether to even play a different formation, stick maybe 2 more other players up front, play a 3 up front, instead of just playing that one single player and then playing off him a little bit. But they've got to put more attack into the game.
Traditionally, are the Caribbean sides as physical as we saw yesterday with this Haiti team?
Well, I think the tradition in the Caribbean is they like to play wide open, freelancing soccer. That game, Haiti, Guadeloupe, did get a little bit nippy, but Terry Vaughan and the officials, sometimes they get criticized, sometimes they get lauded for the way they call the game. He did a good job. He was consistent, pulled out an early yellow card, wanted to nip that stuff in the bud, and the yellow cards he pulled out were very consistent. So I don't think it's about how rough the game is. I think for Haiti, they really have to go back to square one and say, how do we play that fluid football that won us the Caribbean Cup? We didn't see it.
Because personally, I think there'll be some sore legs after that game.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that, I think it was a surprise factor. I think that Guadeloupe came out and with as much confidence and free-flowing, runs off the ball and let's get players forward and let's be positive type of attitude. And I think Haiti had a really tough time adjusting to that game and took way too long to actually adjust to that game, even though they had a couple of chances themselves. But overall, when you look at it, that's not a positive performance from Haiti. They've got to change things quickly.
Well, for Haiti, the one player that did stand out, we touched on him, was Boussicot, and he drew that penalty, drew the foul for the penalty, and very much the only player that really contributed to this Haiti side.
Well, he's a good player. He had a stint in Major League Soccer. Here he is cutting into the box. And he's got a defender in a one-on-one situation, cuts back, squares the ball, shot goes wide of goal. Here's the cutback that earned him the penalty kick. John, it was a great through ball that we didn't see that set him free on the left flank, but then that quick little cutback, put it on his right foot, earned the penalty kick. He needs support. I think Fusian is another player who really didn't do anything in the game. You just can't do it alone. You need 3 or 4 or 5 players engaged on the same page in the attacking part of the field.
Oh, absolutely. And if they're not clicking, they're not on the same page, especially against a team that's going to try to attack on the other end, that changes things dramatically because now you're looking to hold down the midfield as much as possible, dictate the rhythm of the game through that, and they didn't do that either. So, yeah, look, they've got to make changes, whether they take a player out, Shep, and maybe they put somebody else in and give him a chance, who knows, but somebody else has got to make a difference in this side.
Yeah. Could that be Peter Germain? Could he work well with him?
Well, we're going to find out because I can't believe that the same starting lineup will be in their next game. And I think John talked about it. You really need to make the ball do the work. And I think I'm writing this one game off that they were nervous, they were tight, they had a huge crowd in front of them. I don't think it was overconfidence. I think they came out and they just couldn't get loose. They couldn't develop a tempo, a rhythm. I'm sure their coach is saying.
If they want to get loose, they just need to spend an afternoon with the Chefmeister. All right? This is the chillingest, most cool cat around right now.
I must admit, he's a very relaxed man, cruises in, he's like, all right, boys, here we go. Now, for Guadeloupe, fantastic. As we mentioned, 400,000 people, they come to their first Gold Cup, their first major tournament, and what do? They pick up a point in game 1, something that a lot of teams in their first Gold Cup have never done.
Absolutely, and let's not forget now, again, there's always the 2 sides of the coin, all right, to use the expression. Will they come out and bring that performance again to the second match, and that's the hardest thing to do. It's always good to come out and surprise a team the first time out on the pitch, but to do it again the second one, this is going to really dig in and see what kind of depth they have, or what kind of discipline they have, or what kind of adventurism or idealism. Can these guys play just creative football again? I don't think so against this next opponent.
Well, that's what I wanted to suggest. You know, you mentioned you've also got Costa Rica and Canada in the group, two very organised sides. How will they fare?
How will they fare against Canada and Costa Rica? I agree with my partner, the sports doctor, John Harks. Dr. Harks. Dr. Harks is absolutely right about Guadeloupe. They've had their day in the sun. It's a whole different issue to try and do what they did against Haiti. Well, try and get it done against Canada and Costa Rica. I think they're really going to struggle. But again, they have nothing to lose, everything to gain. They can afford to play with some freedom.
We won't see them try and put 10 men behind the ball or something like that and play defensive, though, will we?
Guadeloupe?
Yes.
I don't think they're capable.
No way.
No, I think defense slips their mind, from time to time. And I think, going back to, Shep said, the Caribbean style or the free-flowing football of just like, let's go forward and let's go forward. It's like an all-star game. Everybody wants to go forward, everybody wants to get shots on goal, but nobody wants to defend. I think they got to do a little bit better job of keeping their shape, against Costa Rica, against Canada, and especially against Canada. I think Canada just showed again how strong they are in this group.
Well, Fiston, I loved, really enjoyed watching him, and some fantastic finishing from quite a difficult cross that took a deflection.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, he's in the right place at the right time. He splits the defense there. If anything, there's poor marking, but we don't want to talk about that. He's someone who's got great imagination. He's willing to take chances, and this is an exciting player to watch. There you go. You see him right there off the bar. There he is involved again. Yeah,
the cross Cummings gets down wide left. That ball gets deflected, so John knows how it is. You have to readjust quickly.
Too many times, I know that.
Yeah, you got up into the 6-yard box a couple of times.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Fiston's a great player. Back to the strategy and the way Guadeloupe plays. I'll put it this way. They're playing Canada, they're playing Costa Rica. I wouldn't want to be a goalkeeper for that team. Those guys play with a flair. And you know what? They can't change their style right now. They've had a great opening game to the Gold Cup tournament. Build on it, see what happens.
If you had to compare Fiston to any of the players that you've played alongside, would there be anyone that you could compare him to?
Not really. I mean, it's difficult. No, but that's a difficult question because every player is an individual, and whether they bring across the technical side of the game, the skill factor, what their mind is, how quick they play and think off the ball, it's difficult. But one thing does come to mind about Guadeloupe for me is that they are not a boring team to watch. There's always something that could come off, and they're exciting, and that makes it really fun to sit down and say, all right, I want to watch this team play.
I thought John's absolutely right. And I think about, many years ago in the World Cup, Senegal against France, the huge upset.
Perfect analogy.
That game started against Haiti the first 5-10 minutes. That's a team that's exciting to watch, Guadeloupe. And I'm anxious to see how they do in the next couple of games.
In terms of the whole Group A scenario, you've got the possibility of Canada finishing on top ahead of Costa Rica. Do you think that's something that would be a bit of a concern for Medford?
It's very much a concern.
Let me tell you, in a group with Canada, in a group with Haiti, in a group with Guadeloupe, which team doesn't have a point? Costa Rica. He's got every reason to be concerned right now.
I agree, totally.
Well, when we come back, we have a look at these four sides and where they sit. Welcome back to Inside the Gold Cup, and if we take a look at the standings in Group A, yes, old Messiah, he's smiling, he loves it. Yes, Canada leading with 3 points, then Guadeloupe and Haiti with the draw 1 point each. And surprise, surprise, Harksy and I are a little bit disappointed that Costa Rica are down the bottom there, especially after we tipped them to top this group. Now, if you're Hernan Medford, you're one of the stars of the Costa Rican side. You're the first man to score in the World Cup in 1990 at Italia. You go in there coaching, everyone kind of pins their hopes on you, and you know what the Costa Rican fans are like. They're so passionate. Would he be feeling a little bit, I don't know, possibly embarrassed? Would he? I don't know if you saw it. Well, obviously you saw Shep, how gutted he looked on the bench.
Well, he's certainly not a happy camper right now. It's devastating. I mean, we've talked, John, about the importance of what he does at the national team level in the tournament as prestigious as the Gold Cup. You know, to come out of the gate and be up a goal in that game, walk away with 0 points, I mean, he's shattered. But he's a big boy. He knows what he has to do. He has to pick the boys up. It's all about the next 90 minutes.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. I mean, because sometimes, you know, when it's your first chance of actually showing what you're all about in terms of that coaching experience, and then you get knocked down and you're not as successful in that first game, sometimes it is even harder to bounce back and bring that confidence and then really have that savvy enough to say, oh, maybe I need to take him out and change this formation, push him up in the midfield, play with one guy up high, and, you know, it depends on his scouting as well. Let's hope he was paying attention in the last game there with Guadeloupe and Haiti.
Well, it's interesting because on Saturday the 9th, this group reconvenes, and it's Canada up against Guadeloupe at 7 p.m. That's Eastern time, and Haiti versus Costa Rica at 9 p.m. If you were Garcia, how would you be prepping for your game against Costa Rica?
Well, I think that, you know, the Haitians, and we just said it really, is that they've got to come out and they've got to play more aggressively, you know, and Garcia's got to think to himself as a manager right now on this side, what do I need to do to instill them that they're going to be able to play forward without being so apprehensive? You know, they're a little bit scared in the back. They didn't look like they played the safe ball at times, and although they had some good strikes on goal and this and that, they didn't play as a team that was really like formidable. It was just like they just kind of hesitated on what they were doing, and loosen them up, take them out, and go play some pool tonight or something. I don't know. Hang out with Shep, like I said, but they got to change it.
I'll tell you what, back to Costa Rica, that's really a bad draw for them because they're going to be playing a Haiti team that is utterly disappointed in front of their home fans. They're going to, I think, come out flying. If you're Costa Rica, you desperately need points. They would have been much better off playing against Guadeloupe, so they've got a bad luck of the draw.
Can the Orange Bowl, when you do have your home fans in there, be intimidating for, say, the visiting side like Costa Rica in this case?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's very rare times that we've had a home side with the national team, with the U.S. anyway, home fan base. But, you know, like I said before, and as well, you know, you're playing against Haiti. We beat them 3-0 in the last encounter, and it was in Miami. It was 50,000 Haitians there. Seemed like it anyway, 47,000. It was very intimidating, but the U.S. came out on top, 3-0. Now, this is a different situation. Did they not use that to their advantage? Definitely not. You know, they need to change that around.
I'm going to ask you this about both Guadeloupe and Haiti. Could the free-flowing style of the Caribbean possibly upset the Costa Ricans? And in the other game between Guadeloupe and Canada, upset Canada?
Well, you know, we talk about styles of play, free style of play. You know, it works when you're on the ball, right? When things are going well, it's terrific. The issue for teams that play that style is it's very hard when they come up against a team that's much better than them, where they're better off really getting 10 men behind the ball, sit back, be organized, be compact, try and counterattack. Well, stylistically, psychologically, they're not able to play that way. So right now, if you're Canada, you're going to say, hey, I got one of the biggest victories of this tournament in my opening game. I want to put that next nail in the door. I want to go get 3 points. So I think they're going to come out on fire against Guadeloupe.
Is there a way that Guadeloupe could possibly tweak their style, or could play, apart from playing 10 men behind the ball and trying to nick one on a counter-attack, is there a way that they could tactically overcome Canada?
Well, look, everything's possible, yeah. I mean, in any game. I mean, they could end up being very compact, but it's difficult to do that within a tournament format. You know, to change from one game to the next and completely change your style, you know as a manager going in, this is the way we play, this is our strengths, and we have to play to those strengths. You can't all of a sudden say, all right, now instead of you just making those runs out of midfield, I want you to hold and sit in there. It's not going to happen. But, you know, can they win the game? Of course, anybody can win. You know, the smaller clubs in club ball can always beat the bigger clubs as well and upset them. Same in the national sides, and we've seen it in the Concacaf Gold Cup so many times that the team comes out and surprises the big name team.
I'm going to play Mr. Doom and Gloom just say for argument's sake.
We're going to change a little bit. Then. All right, then go ahead.
Say for argument's sake that Costa Rica lose to Haiti. What impact will this have on Medford and his side?
Absolutely devastating. I mean, I think you talk about early in a tournament, the pressure's on, guillotine is there. I mean, he's got to get a win. Anything less than a win for Costa Rica is unacceptable.
Well, things come back to my mind of Braveheart, the film, and Mel Gibson being stretched. I mean, that's the last thing you want to see back in Costa Rica right now. I mean, look, he was a fantastic player, you know, Medford, and, you know, now as a coach, I mean, sometimes, and that always translates, you know, it doesn't always translate. Being a good player doesn't mean you're going to be a good coach. It's about your personality, it's about managing things, it's about being able to read the game in certain situations and stepping in and making a difference when you need to. So, look, this is a time that he needs to step up and change things around for Costa Rica.
Well, John, you coach. say your team comes off a loss like that, heads are down, you're a bit gutted, you know, and full credit to Canada, they came out there and won the game, so let's not forget about that. But what do? Do you walk up to them and go, okay, chin up, or how do you refocus them and get them ready for the next game?
It depends on the situation. It depends on the way we lost that game, and that's the main thing. You got to learn the lesson from that match. I mean, was it because we were outplayed, or was it because our own faults? Well, we are worst enemy. Did we not really give it 100%? Was the heart and soul not in there? Because it's got to be attached to that as well. And that all depends. So when you get up to it, yeah, of course you want to keep it even keel as much as possible. You don't want to go too up and down with the players because then they don't know what's coming and going.
Well, speaking of coaches, when we return, yes, we go inside the coaching factor of the Gold Cup 2007. Welcome to Inside the Gold Cup, where we delve into the world of coaching. Who were some of the best you've worked with, Shep?
I never had a coach that I really liked. My favorite coach was years ago at the tail end of my career. The coach was fired. I was named player interim coach. So I did away with I did away with curfew. I said, go out, boys. Yeah. Be back before the game is at 3 tomorrow afternoon. Be back by 12. So
enjoy yourself.
Now, I've experienced some great coaches, like all of us have. I just can't think of any.
Okay.
Gordon Bradley. Gordon Bradley was my favorite coach for the Cosmos at the international level. When I played in the Olympics, Dietmar Kramer, the former German national team coach, was a consultant to us. That was my first window to the world of international soccer. So I think all players try and take a little bit of the best from any coach they come across.
Oh, what about you, Johnny? What sort of gaffer you like, son?
Oh, I love
so you must have got quite used to that in England.
Many
gaffer
gaffers, yeah.
Gaffer isn't tape. It's actually what they call the coach.
Yeah, the manager, yeah. Well, I mean, you know, I had many good coaches, actually, that supported me from day one. My father, Manny Shellshite, another great coach that I got to work with here in New Jersey as well. But when you talk about the top level, Ron Atkinson comes to mind at Sheffield Wednesday. Obviously, Bruce Arena as well with DC United with the national team, and also at UVA helped form my career. So many good coaches, different personalities as well. And what helped me really is now that I'm a coach now, able to take some of the best qualities from them, you know, and then put it into your own style.
Now, what elements about them work for you? Is it, you know, you talked about man's management. Is it the guy who's your best mate? Is it the guy who's the authority figure? What works?
I think it depends on the situation and who you're working with. And, you know, there's never one way that's the best way. You know, it's all about, you know, every single day and how you're interacting with the players. Maybe you're doing too much. Maybe you're not doing enough. And the main thing is, I think, be a stand-up guy. You know, be someone that at least you can approach and that you can always discuss things and have an open door policy. And I think if you do that and you manage the game plus the knowledge of what you have, I mean, you know, more than less, and I think it's going to come out on top.
Well, in this tournament, some coaches, in the first time for them with the particular team that they're coaching, and a whole stack of them are 9. Of course, we've got Rueda, Sanchez with Mexico, Guimaraes with Panama, the former Costa Rican coach. There's Bob Bradley for the USA. And guys, when you think about it, we saw a couple on display yesterday. Medford was one. Stephen Hart is one that will be smiling. Medford will be crying. Carlos de los Cobos, Roger Salno, and also Gomez. Now, for coaches like Gomez, I just love, we talked about this yesterday though, but I just love what he did with Ecuador, and I hope he can do the same with Guatemala and put them on the map.
Yeah, I mean, he's an orchestrator. I think he's a disciplined guy as well. He likes to, you know, to make sure that hopefully he doesn't overmanage and overcritique. You know, sometimes when you overanalyze things and you work with players individually too much, then you got teams thinking too much. And Shep knows as well as I do, especially for a goalkeeper, number one, instinct. And don't like, you don't ever want to smother that instinct of a player. You want to let them play freely. And
John makes a great point. I think I'm a goalkeeper. I hate all coaches. Really, goalkeepers are a different breed. I don't want to know. Don't want to know about the coach. Don't get in my way. Let me do my job. But that coach really that brings out or allows or encourages that creativity, that lets that player be the best for his team, I think that's the coach you like. And we've touched on a number of first-time coaches here. You know, Bob Bradley finally got named as the permanent U.S. national team men's head coach, has said Gold Cup. This is my tournament, the most important tournament in the year that I want to win. So he's got a broad platform, maybe a little bit different in Canada for Hart. He knows this is a one-off. Yeah. He knows Dale Mitchell's going to take over. Dale Mitchell with under 20. So different circumstances for different teams. I want to see something from Hugo Sanchez.
Now, speaking of Sanchez, a few of the Spanish papers and the Spanish websites have been saying that that he's possibly overcoaching Mexico, too hands-on, too involved. And you're talking about giving the players freedom. Do you think that could work against him?
Oh, absolutely. And that's exactly what I was just trying to get across. Really, is that when you're overcoaching, you're overanalyzing everything. It's just too much, and you're smothering factor, and that's where you don't let them breathe. And look, it's not about you. It's about the players. The players are going to the ones that are going out in the pitch. You're not out in the fields, and he's got to remember that. He's got to remember that he's not out there anymore. He's on the sideline. If anything, he should be a guy that steps in now and again and says, "Hey, this and that." But the more that you keep referring to yourself and what we did in our day and smothering these players, let them play. It's about them. Sure. They're the one that's their game. Don't take away from the game. And you can't recreate the game either. The game will never change.
Now, Bob Bradley, of course, has picked up from Bruce Arena. What are their styles like? Are they similar? Are they different? How do you think? Where do you think he'll take the US team?
Well, I think John has a better perspective knowing both of them so well. Although I do also. I've known Bob Bradley since he's 21. Known Bruce Arena since he's 20. John can speak how they work together. They're two great guys. The common denominator for both of them, as my friend, I never played for them. They're smart. They love the game. They're direct. They're honest with the players. And they're great leaders. So breaking it down to the team level, John maybe can speak to their different styles.
No, I think that's all those points that you just make, Shep, are very good ones. And the other thing, though, is that they're also tight with their money. They hardly ever spend money on anything. Bruce buys me a bottle of wine now and again, but it's too far and few in between. But no, all kidding aside, I think the different style and approaches, I think that Bruce maybe is more of a vocal guy. He's more open, to discussing things with players right away. Bob more the analytical, kind of quiet, stepping back from the scene, and maybe that works for him. And look, it's worked for him so far with the U.S. He's had 5 games, 4 of them wins, 1 a draw. And now he's been given that head coaching job from Sunil Gulati.
Yeah, it's a great point you make, especially about both Bruce and Bob, because you got that right about the short
hand, long pockets,
But I used to coordinate
like the Kiwis as well.
Oh, Kiwis.
Hey, no, I'm good. All right, don't even go there.
But I used to coordinate a boating trip with Bob Bradley and councils at my camp every year out in Montauk, and I'd go to arrange the boating trip. I was going to rent the boat, pay for it, take everybody out. He'd be there with X's and O's trying to figure out where the fish were. Yeah. So he was destined to be the national team coach.
Yeah. All right, well, we want to hear from you. Please, if you've got any questions for the panel, any questions about the Gold Cup or football in general, email us, mail@awesomeballs.com. And, of course, for all the latest schedules, news, information about the Gold Cup, you can go to www.concacaf.com or www.goldcup.org. Well, make sure you tune in tomorrow, of course, where we analyse Group B, and that is the USA, Guatemala, El Salvador, and also Honduras. We'll see you then.
The reproduction, distribution, publication, modification, public display, public performance, or transmission of this broadcast in any manner, in whole or in part, without the express written consent of Concacaf, is strictly prohibited.